There's a fan base that needs a little bit of a love song right now.
Do they need a love song, or I think we need to kick in Metal Monday again.
No, I don't think anybody needs that.
Yeah, we do.
No. The Carolina Panthers are the worst run franchise in football right now.
Football?
They have
sports.
No. Don't even put that. No. It's still the A's. Don't even. No. Don't do this.
They're raising ticket prices on a team that was
the Oakland A's is all I have to say, Danny.
All right, the second worst team in sports.
Yeah, I mean, it's up there now.
Like, genuinely, they're on that level. That's how bad they are, on and off the field.
But here's the thing with Carolina is that this is such a short term. Like, I'll still put the Pittsburgh Pirates above them. I'll still put the. I'm not going to put the Knicks there yet.
Dolan's gotten out of his way.
I'm not going to put the Knicks there yet. But the Detroit Pistons. Their GM just told one of the fans, "You're lucky I don't beat you at a game."
Yeah,
just like 2 nights ago, he did that.
Yeah,
Dave Tepper. Yeah, he's throwing drinks on fans. Mm-hmm. He's right in there. But let's not kid ourselves. The Detroit Pistons have been doing this for several years now. We've only got like 2 years of true ineptitude.
Yeah, but the
from
Pistons,
the Carolina
if you
Panthers.
squint, you can see something. The Panthers, you can't see anything.
I'll believe that squint when I see it from Detroit.
Again, but if you squint, there's something there. Yeah. The Panthers, I can't recall an NFL roster
but give me more years.
Bereft of talent than this team.
Well, they're at it again, especially after what happened yesterday.
Unbelievable.
They trade Brian Burns, who they just franchise tagged to the New York Giants for a second round and a fifth round pick. Brian Burns is now a New York Giant, and he gets a big payday. He gets a 5-year, $141 million deal, which is getting the bag. But the Giants actually worked it out pretty well with the way their cap is right now. It's very front loaded, and so the back end of it, they're going to be in the clear after like year 2. They can walk away from it if it doesn't work out. Which go ahead, a head scratching move in that like they're pushing their chips in the middle of the table over the next 2 years when you're like. I don't think you're a contender.
One of the worst outside of the Panthers. I was debating this back and forth with our guy Cooley, our sales director, going over because he's a big Giants fan. I'm like, man, I don't like pushing draft capital in because at the time it sounded like it was going to be 2 seconds and then some for Burns, and I was like, look, I get Burns is great. He's under 26, all those things, but I'm like, if you're the Giants, you have 37 holes on your team. Of which your defensive front is not one of them.
Well, you're not going to get anybody in that second round better than Brian Burns. Because here's the other thing, too, that they did. They get Seattle's second round pick in the Leonard Williams trade, which, by the way, Seattle just made it official. Leonard Williams is re-signing with the Seahawks.
Back to the Sea Chickens.
So they get Seattle's second round pick. So by giving up a second round pick, they don't really give up anything. It was a freebie anyways. So you give up a second and a fifth, and there was a report you mentioned yesterday that Brian Burns last year, 2 first-round picks.
And the year before was 2 firsts and a second.
They also they got nothing for the value of Christian McCaffrey either.
No.
So this is where I go, now you're the most dysfunctional, disorganized team in the NFL because you had your 2 best players in your franchise, since Cam Newton.
Yeah.
You have let both of them go.
For nothing.
And
it's not like it was like, if you squint, those guys are really good. Christian McCaffrey's a Hall of Famer.
Christian McCaffrey is one of the best running backs in the NFL. And he is the best weapon in the NFL.
Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. That's who he is. Brian Burns, he's on that path.
Well, the New York Giants did not bat an eye at the fact that they made him the second highest paid defensive end ever.
Yes. So you're looking at the talent for talent, and then they overpay to move up to get Bryce Young, and they take Bryce Young. So the compounding mistakes that organization has made over the past 2 years, I don't think they can right that ship in 5 years. I think you're going to need probably 7 years to fully recover all of the draft capital, all of the mismanagement, all of the things that you have done wrong, unless they fall face first into 2 generational talents.
Well, The Bryce Young thing, I don't care who you draft. They could have drafted C.J. Stroud, and C.J. Stroud
He could have sucked too.
No, he would have sucked.
Yeah.
He would have.
Yeah.
He would have been terrible because their offensive line was garbage. Their skill positions were not good by any stretch of the imagination. Their big signing was Adam Thielen, who is an aging white guy possession wide receiver. That's what they tried to bolster their receiving core with. They have zero talent. Frank Reich was given an impossible task.
And yet he was the one to blame.
I don't care who Bryce Young, if it's Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or whomever, it's Patrick friggin' Mahomes back there. They're not as bad, but you're not a good football team. And that is where Carolina sits right now, is that they've given up every single massive asset that they've had for nothing, including first-round picks, which you don't have a first-round pick this year because of the trade to get Bryce Young. You're sitting at 9th in this year's draft, or you're sitting at first in this year's draft because you were so bad, and now the Bears have 1st and 9th picks. They're sitting in the catbird seat. That is gross mismanagement. Yes. And it's gotten to the point where, like, Nashville's nice guy, Luke Combs, he's even calling him out on Twitter.
Yeah.
He tweeted out, Panthers, what are we doing? No first-round pick for McCaffrey a few years back, and now none for Burns? Are we just firebombing the whole team or what? I usually don't comment on these kinds of things, but it's just becoming so torture at this point. A man regarded as one of the nicest men in music right now is coming at your team, Carolina, because he's one of your only celebrity fans right now. This is like if Katie Lang and Ian Carmel turned on the Blazers. We're not there yet.
Never.
I think that says a lot about the level of stardom for the Portland Trail Blazers fan base.
Wow. What's the guy from the ABC show with the
Modern Family?
Yeah.
Ty Burrell, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ty Burrell would never.
He would never. He would. Well, I mean, you Blazers do this. He might.
I mean, yeah. And this is like, this is if I was running. If this is GM Danny.
Yeah.
Everything that they have done is the exact opposite of what I would have done. When a deal comes along, if you're I like to exist if you're a franchise in the NFL, if you are not in it, you either need to be building towards it or tearing down from it.
Yeah.
It is even more so than the NBA. The middle is a god-awful place to be unless you are on your way up or on your way down. If you are trying to sustain that level of like, hey, we're in it for a playoff. Let's go the Packers in the early Brett Favre era, where you're like, oh, they're a good team. That's okay in the 90s. In the 2020s, that's not okay.
Yeah.
You can't, we were talking about it the last segment, you can't extend a guy past a window. You can't overpay guys. And if you do, it's only going to be one or two. You can't do it over and over and over again because you're trying to get to the 9-7 line.
Yeah.
Or the 9-8 line now. Like, that is not a thing anymore. And that the Panthers aren't even striving for that. Like, what is the vision right now?
Well, he has had 6 head coaches since David Tepper bought the team in 2018.
Good God.
And that includes Dave Canales now, who is their head coach. Because remember, they fired Frank Reich in year 1. They also fired Steve Wilkes after 1 year. I think he was interim, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He was 6 and he went 6-6. So they've gone through Ron Rivera, Perry Felwell, Matt Rule, and by the way, Matt Rule, they gave him a massive deal. Was a 5-year deal. They gave him less than 3 seasons. Steve Wilkes, Frank Reich, Chris Tabor, and now Dave Canales. So they've gone through 6 head coaches. Dave Tepper, they had a practice facility that they were constructing. Apparently that turned into a massive ordeal, and they halted all plans for their new facilities and all that. It's been on the business side. It's been on the coaching side. It's been the roster construction side. They are an absolute disaster. They really are.
And the thing is, like, everyone's like, oh, you just get an owner in there with all the money, which I'm a huge proponent of. You want guys with FU money left, right, and center running your franchise. And he is. He's worth $21 billion.
That's a lot of money.
Good Lord. But as you start naming off those coaches, the first thing I thought was, Reich's the only one there with any experience.
Yeah, outside of Rivera. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
as an NFL head coach.
But it's like it feels like those are trying to be smarter than everybody in the room hires, as opposed to like, let's get a foundation under the organization.
It should be noted, like half of those guys are interim.
Fair.
Canales, though, to your point, reach. Matt Rule going to the college ranks, reach. I mean, yeah, that's what I mean. As
opposed to like
Frank Reich was the other guy they hired as like their head coach.
Yes, and then what did they do? Not even a year.
Fire.
Like you have not allowed your organization to lay any kind of foundation to build with, either on a personnel side, on a philosophy side, or on a coaching side. When I say Carolina football, what do you think other than S show?